The Eliwan are ancient race of people who colonized the moonlands. Most of us were killed off or died of old age. I was just a small child when I arrived on the moonlands, so I'm still alive and well. I look just as young as most of the young adults in Vashnarum, yet am a few thousand years old. I'm one of two last living Eliwan alive. The other is known for betraying everyone when he was trying to open up a new world of options for the younger generations. I read his journals. His ideas were sound, just that his execution was off. I have access to more Eliwan history than the library, mostly because it's more unsavory but shouldn't be in the library, from what the elders say. I think the young ones should learn about the ancient history, even if there are some not-so-good parts. But I do occasionally get someone wanting to do research. Mostly by stuffy people who think they know more than the one who grew up while the civilizations were built up from nothing. But today, I got a trio of children. Are you Alaric? The girl asked as they looked up a bit. I'm not too much taller than them. I'm rather short for an Eliwan. We tend to get much taller than me. I am. What can I do for you? I asked as I stepped outside my home, brushing myself off out of habit, something my mother got me into to show that I'm making myself more presentable to show more respect to those I greet. We were sent here by Orwin to do some research on the ancient Eliwan language. The girl stated, the boy still a little stunned. Do you have an article in the ancient language? I asked. Yes. We found an old journal which is supposed to contain information we need, but we do not have the knowledge to read it. The underneath stated. They tend to be overly polite. It's a little annoying. Yeah, what he said. The other boy stated. Think I could see it? I might be able to help, depending on how neat the handwriting is. I stated. You know how to read the ancient one's language? The girl asked, stunned but not convinced. Well, I am an Eliwan, so I would sure hope so. I told them with a bit of a chuckle. I try to remain kind to people, cause otherwise I won't get what I need. And my arms were grabbed and they began to drag me. I tried to get them to stop, but they didn't. When we got to the one named Orwin, they told him that I could read the journal and translate it for them. He's selfish when it comes to giving assistance. He always asks for something in return. Yeah, my track record isn't the best. If the journal belongs to who I think it does, just reading it will be good enough for me. I stated. I promise. That is precisely why you SHOULDNT set your eyes on it. Who would it belong to? The girl asked. If my hunch is correct, it would belong to Agram. One from when he was younger. I could learn about what he was studying and find a less destructive way of utilizing it. But it could still destroy all that is good. Orwin told me. I saw the journal on a table. Well, if I'm not to read the journal, mind if I reread some old favorite books while I'm here? I asked. He nodded and I went to a very familiar shelf and grabbed a very familiar book. I took it to the table and read it while they discussed some things. They ended up forgetting about the journal as well as I, so I shut the book, put it in the place of the journal, and took the journal with me. It has a similar cover and is of a similar size, so they shouldn't notice it's different until they open it. I'm fairly conniving when I need to be. Mainly when looking for information I would be denied otherwise. You're leaving already? One of the boys asked. Yeah. I have things to do at my home today. I told him with a smile. And I'm sorry I couldn't be of much help for you and your friends. I want to know the journal's contents just as much as you. It's okay. If Orwin says it's not a good idea, it's safe to listen. He told me. Shame he doesn't want me to help. I speak the ancient language fluently. I stated the last bit in ancient Eliwan as I left. I waved and went home. When I got home, I opened the journal and got to reading. It was newer than what Orwin let on. Like, it was finished maybe a month ago, that kind of newer. It was interesting. It spoke about how Agram was trying to figure out how to find any and all living ancient Eliwan to help him with return to the surface, to regain his sight, and to right his wrongs. I grabbed an empty journal and used a spell to keep its contents secret to anyone but me. It's in case I lose it somewhere. I noted down everything that I deemed important as well as some extra. When I was done, I snuck back into the library and switched the books back and put the real journal back on the table and the book back on the shelf. How much do you know about Agram? And why the interest? I jumped at the sudden voice speaking. I looked and it was the underneathen boy. Please don't do that again, I stated, still startled. And before he was banished to the core, he used to babysit me, teach me spells and the like. And I know a lot about him. Probably more than most people. And enough to know he wasn't always a bad person. The king of evil wasn't always evil? He wasn't convinced. Do you really think he would have been allowed to babysit me if he was always evil? My parents didn't trust many people, so he really mustn't have been all that bad. I told him. And how do you look young when you're older than the ruins? I'm not entirely sure. But what I am sure of is that I'll outlive your great-great-grandkids before physically aging again, I stated with a chuckle as I looked at the other familiar titles. And why the interest with Agram? Do you promise to keep something a secret? I asked. Depends on the secret, he stated. It's not harmful to anyone if that's what you're wondering. I told him. Then yes. I promise to keep it a secret. I believe there's still a small amount of good left in Agram. If I can pull that to the surface and figure out a way to purge the evil from him, he could become a good ally to have. And who better to bring that out than me? I'm currently the only one left alive who knew him before evil took him over, after all, I stated. And if you fail? I'm doing research to find spells that could eliminate evil from him, bit by bit, so I would have to go to the core to do so. And I wouldn't return until I succeeded, so there wouldn't really be much consequence for anyone other than myself. I told him. How do you see the good in people? Isn't it difficult? He asked. Not really. And everyone has the potential to be a force of good, as well as a force of evil. You, for example, could do a lot of damage to those around you if you really wanted to, but you don't. You know it's wrong, so you don't. But those who are evil do things because they know it's the wrong thing to do. If they chose to, they could do the right thing. I told him. It's just a matter of getting them to make that choice. I soon came across a book spine I didn't recognize and pulled it out. I took a peek and so did the boy. It was another journal. This one wasn't finished though. Why would someone put an empty book on a shelf? He asked. So he can't see the words? Perfect. Someone must have put it there by mistake. Sometimes books have similar covers, and if they're of similar size, they can get grabbed by mistake and placed on a shelf. I've done it a few times on accident, I stated. But since it's empty, I could use it for an extra research journal. Shouldn't you return it to its owner? He asked. It looks pretty dusty. The owner must have put it here and forgot about it. At this point, it would be impossible to tell who put it on the shelf. I told him as I tucked it under my arm. I best be going home. It's starting to get late. He looked out the window. It isn't even sunset yet, he stated, fairly confused. I wake up 3 in the morning and go to bed at 4 or 5 in the afternoon. I told him. It's a habit I've had for centuries. And I don't think I got your name. I'm Strag, he told me. I nodded and left for home. If the journal isn't finished, it could be a spell used to automatically update it. If it's written in a host journal, it will end up in this one too. It's a fascinating spell I've only ever been told about, not actually try. But it could go both ways if I'm not mistaken. But I should study it for a while before I decide to do anything like writing in it. It's been about a week since I found the journal in the library, and it seems to be a two-way communication spell using a journal as a vessel, and would have to be a complex and powerful one to be able to communicate from the core. Agram has been giving me spells to practice that would be helpful in releasing him from the core when the time comes, just on a Michigan larger and grander scale, and has to be done on both sides at the same exact moment or it won't work. And he's also been giving me relic names and pictures of said relics to collect to ensure all the void energy is out of his body once the time comes. I haven't written anything in it though, not sure how he'll react. I don't want to risk Agram just using me for freedom, but to genuinely want to change for the better. For all he knows, no one took the journal from the library. Or so I thought. I opened the journal today to a message from Agram. I know you have the other journal, Alaric. I suggest you start writing back before I start sending more. Harmful spells, is what it said. I grabbed a quill and some ink and wrote, "How did you know I'm the one who had it?" I asked. You know every book in that library just by the cover. You know where every book in that library is. I knew if I had a journal with an unfamiliar cover on one of the shelves, you wouldn't be able to resist grabbing it. I knew it wouldn't take you long to find it either, so you would have seen everything I wrote as I wrote it. He wrote, "Guess all those years of you babysitting me made you know me better than I thought. But you do know that I will only help you if you genuinely want to change for the better. Right? 'Cause if you're just going to use me for freedom, I will burn this journal, so don't test me. I wouldn't expect anything less from you. You always did keep your word after all. And believe me, void energy has brought me nothing but pain and despair. I'm sick of it. I would happily give up my power to see the light of day again." So far he does seem genuine. Which section of the Moonlands would you want to live in if you got the choice? I asked. The underneath. It was where I was supposed to govern if I hadn't betrayed the others. I even told them that it could still be habitable, even though it is void of sunlight. He wrote, again, another seemingly genuine answer. But he said he'd like to see the light of day again. Why not Vashnarum, where you can see the sun every day? All I said is that I would give up my power to see the light of day again. Not that I would live in the sun every day, now did I? Okay, he has a good point. And someone knocked on my door. I excused myself before going to answer it. And when I answered it, it was Orwin. Yes, Orwin? Did I forget to return a book to the library again? I asked, trying to force a happy tone. Strag told me you found an empty journal in the library the other day. He thought it was weird that you would just take it without bothering to find the owner. May I see it? He asked. I did find an empty journal. And when I pulled it off the shelf, I noticed it was coated in dust. To me, that says someone put it there to get rid of instead of just throwing it away. But I'll grab it to show you it. I'll be back in a minute. He nodded as I went inside, grabbed the journal and brought it to him. He grabbed it and frowned. You didn't check it for any spells? He asked. I did, and I didn't feel anything off about it. It felt like just another one of the books in the library. Just a little dustier. I told him. To me, it feels like there's a concealment spell on it. A powerful one. Huh. Guess I must not have noticed. If you want, I can see if I can break it. If I do, I'll be sure to show you the contents that very day. I told him. Are you sure you can break such a powerful spell? He asked. It might take a while, but I'm sure I can. If I can cast similar spells, I'm sure I can break one. I told him. Be sure to report your findings when you do break it. If we can find out who it belongs to, we would be able to return it to its rightful owner. I nodded with a smile as he handed it back. Will do. But if I find out who it belongs to, I'll just return it myself and tell you who it belonged to. He nodded and left, and I got back inside. If I tell Orwin my plan, he'll shut it down very quickly, not even wanting to hear me out on my reasoning, which is, at least I think it is, a good reason. If Agram is our ally, he would be able to help us defend the Moonlands from potentially more dangerous threat. And it's one I have been aware of for ages, one that's been slowly making itself more and more present over the centuries. Sentient shadow creatures. Ones that are capable of being evil without receiving orders. Shadow creatures are mindless servants of evil. Agram created them to be mindless, so they would follow any one of his orders at any moment and without question. But a lot of them have been gaining that sentience back, and then they could order the mindless ones around to have a sort of army of purely shadow creatures. It's pure insanity. We could use an ally like Agram. But no one would believe me if I told anyone about this,